The morning sun cast long shadows across the Sonoran desert as Emma Hayes packed her field notes into a weathered leather journal. The anthropologist had been living among the sandstone formations of northern Arizona for nearly 6 months, documenting indigenous rock art for her doctoral thesis. At 34, Emma was regarded as a rising star in her field, meticulous, passionate, and willing to venture where others wouldn't. Her research on pre-Columbian cultural migration patterns had garnered attention from prestigious academic journals, but it was the discovery of an unmapped canyon network that truly captivated her. "I found something," she wrote in her last email to her department chair at the University of Arizona. "These petroglyphs don't match any known ancestral Puebloan or Hohokam patterns. The symbols suggest a previously undocumented group may have inhabited this region. I need more time out here." That email, sent from a remote outpost in Apache County on April 17, 2016, was the last confirmed communication from Dr. Emma Hayes. 3 days later, her campsite was found abandoned, her tent still pitched, research equipment untouched, and her satellite phone charging beside her solar panel. Her rental vehicle remained parked at the trailhead, 20 miles from where she had been working. "It was as if she simply walked away from her life," said Sheriff Raymond Blackwood, who led the initial search. Nothing suggested foul play or wildlife encounter. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no disturbance to her camp. Her wallet, ID, and personal items were all there. It was the strangest disappearance I've encountered in my 30 years of service. For weeks, search and rescue teams combed the labyrinthine canyons and harsh desert terrain. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging surveyed from above, while ground teams with cadaver dogs explored every crevice and cave system in a 50-mile radius. Native trackers from the nearby reservation offered their expertise, but even they were confounded by the complete absence of tracks beyond a certain point. "The land just swallowed her," one tracker told reporters. "No footprints, no scuff marks, no displaced stones. In the desert, everyone leaves a trace, but not her." It was like she ascended into the air. As summer heat intensified, making search conditions increasingly dangerous, the operation was scaled back. By autumn, it had become a cold case, another mysterious disappearance in the vast wilderness of the American Southwest. Emma's parents, retired school teachers from Vermont, relocated temporarily to Arizona to maintain pressure on local authorities. They appeared on national news programs, established a substantial reward fund, and hired private investigators. Her younger sister, Olivia, launched a website and coordinated volunteer search efforts for 2 years before the family reluctantly accepted that answers might never come. Emma knew the risks of field work, her father told a documentary crew in 2018. She respected the desert, understood its dangers. "Whatever happened out there, I believe she faced it with the same courage and intelligence she brought to everything in her life." The academic community mourned her loss. Her unfinished research was published posthumously by colleagues, with all proceeds funding a scholarship in her name. The University of Arizona Anthropology Building dedicated a memorial garden where students often left small tokens, polished stones, dried wildflowers, handwritten poems beside her bronze plaque. As public interest waned and new mysteries captured media attention, Emma Hayes became another legend of the desert, a cautionary tale told around campfires, a ghost story whispered by hikers traversing the remote canyons she once studied. Some locals claimed to have seen a solitary female figure walking the ridgelines at dawn. Others insisted they heard a woman's voice carried on the wind during full moons. Life continued. The search parties stopped coming. The missing person posters, bleached by the sun and weathered by sandstorms, eventually disappeared from trailheads and ranger stations. Emma's rental company wrote off her equipment as a loss. Her university position was filled by a new professor who occasionally referenced her groundbreaking theories in lectures. 9 years passed. The desert kept its secret. Until one spring morning in 2025, when two geology students from Northern Arizona University ventured into an unmapped side canyon during their spring break hiking trip, a detour that would unravel the mystery of what really happened to the anthropologist, who vanished without a trace. Tyler B. Gay adjusted his backpack straps as he surveyed the narrow gap between towering sandstone walls. At 23, the Navajo geology student had explored most of Arizona's accessible canyons, but this unmarked passage didn't appear on any of his topographic maps. "Maya, come check this out," he called to his hiking partner, a grad student specializing in sedimentary formations. "I think we've gone off trail." Maya Chen scrambled up the loose scree to join him at the ridge overlooking a hidden canyon system. "That's definitely not on our planned route." She consulted her GPS. "No signal. But look at those rock formations. Those aren't natural erosion patterns." What caught her eye were perfectly straight lines etched into the red canyon wall about 50 feet below their position. As they carefully descended the steep path, the markings became clearer. Not ancient petroglyphs, but modern English letters meticulously carved into the stone surface. "Here, April 22nd, 2016. Emma Hayes, University of Arizona." Tyler froze. "Emma Hayes, the anthropologist who disappeared?" His voice echoed against the stone. "Everyone knows that story. My uncle was part of the search party." Maya ran her fingers over the precise chisel marks. "These weren't made in haste." She took her time, used proper tools. She examined the surrounding rock face. "There's more over here." What the students discovered was not random graffiti, but an orderly catalogue of observations and notes spanning nearly 30 feet of canyon wall. The carvings were arranged in neat rows, dated and initialed, like pages from a journal transferred to stone. "Found cave system extending northward, taking supplies for 3-day exploration. If reading this, contact Dr. Michael Sandoval at UA Anthropology." April 24th. Cave network larger than anticipated. Have discovered chamber with undocumented pictographs showing celestial alignment patterns. Matches no known cultural group. Continuing inward tomorrow. April 27th. Lost count of days. Flashlight failing. Found underground river and large central chamber. Walls covered with symbols similar to Proto-Uto-Aztecan, but with significant deviations. This could rewrite migration theories. The entries continued, becoming increasingly technical as they described archaeological findings, pottery shards with unusual glazing techniques, stone tools fashioned from non-local materials, evidence of sophisticated astronomical tracking systems, unlike anything previously documented in the Southwest. May 3. Main passage collapsed behind me after rainfall. Attempted 3 alternate routes, all dead ends or too narrow. Food nearly gone. Rationing water. If anyone finds this, the main chamber is worth the effort. Coordinates approximately... The final entries grew shorter, the handwriting less precise but still remarkably controlled. Unknown date. Found air shaft, but too narrow to climb. Leaving these notes in case someone follows my research. The discovery is real and significant. Tell Michael the Exodus theory was correct. Tyler took dozens of photographs while Maya recorded their exact location. When they climbed to higher ground to regain satellite signal, they called the Apache County Sheriff's Department, who connected them to the cold case detective still technically assigned to Emma Hayes' disappearance. Within hours, the remote canyon was transformed into a hive of activity. Search and rescue teams, archaeological experts, and law enforcement converged on the site. The careful documentation carved into the stone walls provided precise directions to the cave entrance Emma had discovered, a narrow vertical shaft partially obscured by brush and loose rock. Dr. Michael Sandoval, now department chair at the University of Arizona and Emma's former mentor, arrived by helicopter the following morning. His face was ashen as he read his former student's final communications. The Exodus theory, he explained to investigators, was Emma's hypothesis that a small group split from the main ancestral Puebloan culture around 1100 CE, developing distinctive artistic and agricultural practices in isolation. It was considered speculative at best. No one took it seriously except Emma. As expert cavers prepared to explore the underground system Emma had described, Olivia Hayes arrived on site, having flown immediately from her home in Boston upon receiving the news. 9 years older, but with the same determined set to her jaw, she insisted on being part of the team that would follow her sister's final journey. "These aren't goodbye messages," she told reporters who had gathered at the perimeter. "These are breadcrumbs." Emma was always methodical, always thinking ahead. She wasn't just documenting her predicament, she was leaving a map for someone to find her discovery, even if she couldn't. And as the exploration team disappeared into the narrow cave entrance with state-of-the-art equipment and provisions for a 3-day expedition, the question hung in the air: what would they find in the chambers below? Evidence of Emma's fate. The archaeological breakthrough she believed could rewrite history, or perhaps, against all odds, something more. The descent into the cave system took nearly 6 hours. The specialized team, 2 professional spelunkers, Dr. Sandoval, Olivia Hayes, and a forensic anthropologist from the State Medical Examiner's Office, followed the narrow passages exactly as Emma's stone journal had described. They navigated past the collapsed section through a tight crawl space that required them to remove their gear and push it ahead of them. Emma was small, 5'3", Olivia noted as she squeezed through. That's probably how she found this alternative route. Nile! The passage eventually opened into a cathedral-like chamber with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above their powerful headlamps. Water trickled down one wall, feeding a small pool in the corner, likely the underground river Emma had mentioned. But it was the opposite wall that drew gasps from everyone present. Hundreds of handprints in varying sizes covered the stone surface in concentric circles around a central image of what appeared to be an astronomical event, perhaps a solar eclipse or planetary alignment. Between the circles were bands of symbols unlike any known indigenous writing system, though certain elements suggested connections to Mesoamerican script. "My God," whispered Dr. Sandoval, his voice trembling. She was right. This doesn't match any documented southwestern cultural group. He moved closer, examining the precision of the work, the pigments, the application technique. This isn't primitive. This represents mathematical understanding, astronomical observation, a developed writing system. As the team documented the extraordinary find, Olivia explored the perimeter of the chamber, her headlamp sweeping methodically across the ground. In the furthest corner, partially concealed by a rock overhang, she found what appeared to be a campsite. A sleeping bag fashioned from an emergency blanket, a makeshift stone lamp with animal fat residue, and a pile of neatly stacked notebooks. "Over here!" she called, her voice echoing through the chamber. The team gathered around as Olivia gently opened the top notebook. Inside was Emma's distinctive handwriting, the pages filled with sketches, translations, and observations dated over a span of months, far longer than anyone had imagined she survived. "June 17th, 2016, read the entry on one page. "Day 60 underground. I've developed a system to track time using water drips from the ceiling. 2,143 drops approximately equals 1 day. The air shaft provides enough oxygen and the spring gives clean water. Food remains the greatest challenge, though I've found cave crickets are edible when necessary." Page after page detailed Emma's methodical documentation of the site, her attempts to translate the symbol system, her theories about the people who created it, and her growing acceptance of her situation. August 3rd, 2016. "I've accepted that rescue is unlikely. The passage collapse was too substantial to clear alone, and this chamber is too deep for any signals to reach the surface. I've decided to dedicate my remaining time to documenting everything for future discovery. This find is too important to be lost again." The final entry was dated October 12, 2016, nearly 6 months after her disappearance. The translation is finally making sense. These weren't refugees from a larger cultural group, as I initially theorized. They were deliberate isolationists, knowledge keepers who removed themselves to preserve astronomical and mathematical understanding they believed would otherwise be lost. They called themselves the Guardians of the Sky Path. Their calendar system predicted eclipse cycles with remarkable accuracy. I've only scratched the surface of what they understood about celestial mechanics. I've left detailed notes carved on the canyon walls leading here. If anyone is reading this, please ensure this discovery is properly documented and protected. The academic validation means little to me now, but the knowledge preserved here deserves recognition. My headlamp battery is nearly exhausted. Rather than remain in darkness, I've decided to attempt the Northern Passage one final time. My maps suggest it may offer an alternative exit, though the narrow sections will be challenging. If I don't return to this chamber, know that I made this choice consciously and without regret. The desert takes, but it also gives. What I found here was worth everything. Dr. Emma Hayes, Anthropologist. The team searched the remaining chamber and located the Northern Passage Emma had mentioned. It extended nearly a mile before ending in a vertical shaft too narrow and smooth to climb without specialized equipment. There was no evidence Emma had made it that far. In the days that followed, a full archaeological expedition was mounted. The site was carefully preserved and documented, with Emma's meticulous notes guiding the research. The discovery was exactly as significant as she had believed. Evidence of a previously unknown cultural group with advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics that predated European contact. The University of Arizona established the Emma Hayes Center for Indigenous Archaeological Studies. Her journals were published both academically and as a memoir titled The Sky Path: Notes from Underground, which became an international bestseller. Her parents donated the proceeds to establish protective status for the cave system and surrounding land, working with local tribes to ensure respectful access and study. The stone journal carved into the canyon walls was preserved as both a scientific record and a memorial. 1 year after the discovery, on the anniversary of Emma's disappearance, her family and colleagues gathered at the canyon entrance for a ceremony honoring her contribution to anthropology. "My sister didn't vanish," Olivia told the assembled group. "She transformed. Her work, her words, her discoveries, they live on. The greatest tribute we can pay her is to approach this site with the same reverence and intellectual curiosity she demonstrated." Dr. Sandoval, standing beside a display of Emma's findings that would soon travel to the Smithsonian, added, "In archaeology, we often search for lost civilizations. Emma Hayes was never lost. She was exactly where she meant to be, doing the work she loved until her final moment. Her name now stands alongside the greatest field researchers in history." As the sun set over the canyon, casting long shadows across the stone journal Emma had so painstakingly created, a plaque was unveiled at the trailhead. It bore a quote from her final notebook entry: "Discovery requires risk. Knowledge demands sacrifice. The desert takes, but it also gives." Hikers passing through the canyon today often leave small tokens: polished stones, academic journals, compasses, beside Emma's stone journal. In archaeological circles, her methodology has become standard practice. Students at field sites around the world now carry chisels in their emergency kits, a practice known as the Hayes Protocol, ensuring that their discoveries will endure even if they do not. The mystery of exactly what happened to Emma Hayes in those final moments remains unsolved. But her voice, preserved in stone and on paper, echoing through academic halls and whispered around campfires, continues to guide new generations of explorers into the unknown.